So now actually what I'm trying to share you guys as of now from the database, you understood what are the concepts you understood? Disha, can you please tell me what you understood as of now? Disha, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you please tell me what are the things are done as of now?
So we did the SQL statements.
Hmm.
Yeah. Then
SQL operators.
yeah, operators.
Okay. Then
And then we did the SQL structures like tables and everything.
yeah, SQL data types.
Yeah.
What are the things? SQL data types is done. SQL statement is done. Okay. And basics of the database also be done, right? Okay. See, when you decided to develop the database, okay, in effective manner, and you want to maintain the database in effective manner, okay, then we have a concept is normalization. This is a pretty important question, guys. You might be getting this kind of question in interview. What is normalization and what is denormalization? If already someone is attend the interview on big data, or else if someone is attend the interview when the SQL is involved, okay, database involved, okay, so that time you might be getting the this kind of question, what is normalization and what is denormalization? Okay, clear? So what exactly the normalization? Now we are going to be talking, or we are going to be discussing about normalization. Normalization. Okay. So what exactly the normalization? Can you tell me, anyone? If you have already knowledge on database. So basically, what is the use of it? Normalization is means it's a process of what it is? It's a process of efficiently organizing the data. Efficiently organizing the data. Clear? So where we are going to be organizing the data? In a database only, right? So that exactly the database normalization. Database normalization means database normalization is the process of efficiently organizing the data in a database. Clear? So what it is having it, how we can able to process the data efficiently. For that one, we have some kind of rules. So we have set of rules. Okay, it is a set of rules, you might have it, or else guidelines. When you're following the proper guideline, then you won't get a problem for you, right? You can easily maintain it, right? When you're not maintaining the guidelines, when you're not follow the guidelines and rules, then that could be the problem. So rules and guidelines statements that we while storing the data. Clear? So we have some kind of rules and guidelines actually when you're following while you're writing the statements, then it could be easy to store the data, and it could be easy to access the data, and that's a this is the way we can achieve the normalization. So basically, normalization means it's a very simple thing. It's a process of efficiently organizing the data. But how we are going to be organizing the data is a question. For that one, we have a direct answer is there. We have some kind of set of rules and guidelines, and that statement some no statement that we follow while you're storing the data actually, so that we can achieve the normalization. Okay, and there are two reasons of normalization process actually. So what is the process, and what is the reasons behind the using the normalization? It's okay efficiently organizing the data, that's okay, but why we need to organize the data efficiently? That's my question. You clear my point? So it's a process of efficiently organizing the data only, but why we need to organize the data? How we are organizing the data, we've seen just a set of rules and guidelines actually. But if you follow this kind of set of rules and guidelines, then we can easily organize the data. But what is the purpose, what is the reason we need to use the normalization technique? Hmm? Tell me, what is the reason behind to use the what is the reasons to use the normalization? Guys, this is very much important questions. Make sure that without this question you cannot get the, okay, you cannot done your enter actually. So what is the reason behind the normalization, and what is the reason we need to follow the normalization process? See, basically, we have a redundant data. Okay, if you want to be eliminate that kind of redundant data, okay, so eliminating the unwanted data or eliminating redundant data. Okay, so eliminating the redundant data actually. Okay, redundant data means what? What is mean that redundant data? Okay, eliminating the redundant data, right? What exactly the redundant data? Redundant data. Okay, redundant data. What is mean that one actually? Okay, for example, you have one particular table, or you have a we have a one particular table which we have some kind of data, right? See, same column which is repeated multiple times. Same data we are storing the multiple times. Okay, so one record it might be repeated more than one time. Okay, or in same data we stored in one particular table, then that particular data we are calling it say redundant data. Okay, so if you want to be eliminating that kind of redundant data, then we can use the normalization process. And moreover, make sure that data dependencies make sense actually. So one data it can be depending on the another one, right? So that kind of things we can ensure it. So in a make sense, it's a good manner we can make it the data as a dependencies manner. Okay, ensuring the ensuring data dependencies and make sense. Okay, depending make sense. It's a simple thing actually, guys. So one more time we are going to be one more time we would like to go for understanding the normalization. Normalization means it's a process of efficiently organizing the data, and so it means that it's a set of rules and guidelines that you should follow while you are storing the data in a database. Okay, there are two main reasons to use the normalization process. The first one is to eliminating the redundant data, which means that so to eliminating the same data in a multiple times. Okay, and that we are calling it say redundant data. So you're going to be eliminating that such kind of okay, and duplicate data actually. And second one is that data dependencies, for example, one column it might be depending on the another column. So that kind of dependencies we can make sense actually. So these are reasons we are going to be using the normalization. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions as of now? What we talk?
No.
Okay, now so now we'll talk, so there are different normalization forms are there. Okay, this kind of normalization, we can achieve different kind of forms. The first one is the one normalization form. Okay, second one is the two normalization form. Then third normalization form. Like this, we can make the sense of, you can make the normalization with n norms. It's up to you actually. Okay, it up to you. Most probably, I mean, up to in the sense, usually fourth normalization and fifth normalization, only five normal forms only we can achieve it. But we are not discussing this all actually. So we would like to discuss in the first three till three norm is fair enough. Okay. So what exactly the one norm, and what exactly the two norm, and what exactly the three norm? Okay, so basically this two norm which is depend, it has to be must be achieve the two norm. So for example, if you want to make the data into a three normalization form, Before that one, it has to be it has to follow the two norm rules. If you want to be achieve the two normalization form, make sure that it has to be follow the one nf, I mean one normalization form features or rules. Okay, so here we have some kind of rules are there, and here we have some kind of rules are there, and here we have some kind of rules are there, right? But you know what, the three norm rules, if you want to be follow it, before that one it has to be follow the second normalization form rules. And if something a database, it has to be follow the two normalization rules, then must be first of all it has to be follow the, or it has to satisfy the one norm rules. Okay, this is the way it will go ahead actually. So first, that's the reason, first we'll try to be go for understanding the one normalization. So one normalization is what exactly you will do. We can define the data items. First, what we'll do, we can define the data items. Data items means records actually. Okay, how we can able to define the data items? First, we would like to go for maintaining defining the data items. So how we can, this means looking at the data to be stored, organizing the data into the columns, defining what type of data each column contains, and finally putting related columns into their one table actually. So it was very simple thing. For example, you decided that to create a table, and the table it might having the columns names, right? Creating the column name and corresponding data type, what type of data you want to be stored it. And second one is column number 2, and what type of data the column number 2 you can store it. And you have to be hold you have to write this particular schema. After that one, you can able to assigning this particular table in appropriated database actually. Okay, or appropriated table. Clear? We have to create the table name. So this is the data, you have to put it in one specific table. This table, it must be there in one particular database. Clear? This is the one thing. So this is the first rule. The first rule is creating the table, and the table, it must having the column name and corresponding data type. Okay, and we should put the data before that one. I mean, after that one, you have to put the data into that particular table. So this is the one rule. Second rule is that ensuring that there are no repeating group of data. That means same data, it might be repeated more than one time. So you cannot make it, if you have such kind of data, it's not following the one norm. For example, you have a table, and the table which is having the serial number and name. Okay. For example, serial number is 1 and name is, for example, Anjan. Serial number is 2 and, for example, Kumar. And again serial number is 1 again, which is following the same name. Okay, this is the record which is repeated the two times. When one particular table which is following this kind of this, what if the table which is having the two kind of things, which means that this is the table is not the one form. Okay, so that is the one rule. Okay, ensuring that there are no repeating group of data. Okay, so my question is that the data table or database, it must be one norm. That means the data, it should be no redundant data. Okay, clear? That is the one rule of the one normalization form. And second one is the, and so ensure that it should be there is a primary key. For example, you have the one particular table. Okay, you have one particular table. So the table which is having the mm, employee ID, okay, employee name, and employee salary. So this is the employee table. This is employee table. So this is employee ID which is holding the integer data, and name which is holding the text data. Okay, and salary which is holding the integer data only, or float data, whatever it is. So this is the way you created the column names, and we created the appropriate data. We defining this thing, and we are ensuring that into one particular table name, right? This is step number one. After that one, we should enter the some kind of data. It could be in queue. For example, employee ID 502, and so the name of the for example, name is Anjan Kumar. For example, it's a $5,000 for month. Okay, and for example, 104, this is Kumar, and it could be the 6,000. Okay, this is 7. Okay, 7 107, this is, for example, Sai. So it's $7,000 per month. Okay, see, careful observe here. So here for example 108, okay, And for example, we have a same name with employee name of Anjan. Okay, he's getting the $8,000. So here, is the data is redundant or not? Who is going to answer this question? Is this data is redundant or not? Here we have Anjan and here also we have Anjan, right? But is it redundant? I can say no. The reason is that this entire record, it has to be repeat same. So here we should have employee ID is the same, and your employee ID and your name and your salary name, same record, it must be repeated one more time. Then that could be redundant data. But that kind of information we have only one particular name, one particular cell, one particular record. It's not even recorded, one particular cell which is having the same data. Maybe the company, it might having the same name of employees, right? But employee ID could be the different, right? This particular situation, I want to access the names, and I want to call one particular name Anjan. By this time, the company which is having the two people, right? So there is a two members will come to the session actually. Okay, for example, you have a team meeting, so you invited Anjan actually. So the meeting which is goes to the Anjan, and two Anjans which is goes on, right? This particular situation, these two guys are comes to the meeting, but the meeting only for one guy only. But unfortunately, these two guys are comes to this that particular session, right? Okay, so here what happens? Here what happens? So which is not depending on the name. So there it could be depending on the primary number, primary key. So this time, so there is the two engines are there, but which engine you wanted? That time this engine is which is depending on the employee ID or not? Okay, maybe the situation salary could be the same, right? Here all these guys also maybe get the 5,000, and this guy also maybe get the 5,000. So this time salary is not the dependent variable, okay? Or else it's not the primary key. Primary key in the sense, so primary key which is uniquely identifying the record. So I would like to go for uniquely identifying the engine. So how should I do that? Based upon the employee ID, right? That is we are calling it say primary key. So so when you are creating the table, make sure that that particular table, it should have the primary key. Okay, is this my point is clear? So data, it could not be repeated, and it should have the primary key. Two points are done, and all rows must be unique. So something which is following the primary key in the sense data could be unique only. Each cell must only contains the single value. So which means that for example Anjan, and here there is a Kumar, Sai is there. Okay, Sai and Kumar, there is two names, right? These two names which is having the one column. So this kind of things we have to avoid. Okay, each cell must contains only one key or one value, one cell, one data element, one single value. Okay, not two values. For example, name here Anjan and Sai, Anjan and Sai, there is a two names which is in the same cell. That is not a good thing to practice the one norm. Okay, one norm is nothing but the data, it could be a single value in a single cell. And moreover, the data, it could not be dividable. So for example, you want to change employee ID and name, and so it's not possible to divide. So it's a one shot, I mean, the standard data we have to maintain. Okay, each value should be non-divisible. That means we cannot divide into we cannot split down further. Actually, we cannot able to split for that. Okay, splitting is not happening. Okay, so you can't it's not possible. And I mean, what I'm trying to tell you can't be split. So whatever the database we have it, we cannot split into another table actually. So some situation what we have it, we have one particular table. So the table which if you want to be follow the one norm, then make sure that we have to create the two tables actually. The reason is that maybe one table, it might be depending on the another table, right? So until unless we have to split for that one. So if it is not possible to split, that means the table which is following the one norm. Okay, if something is possible to split, that means it is not possible which is not following the one norm. Okay, and I hope you clear my point. So you have to follow this particular rules. When you're following this particular rules, that means the data which is following the table which is following the one norm. So make sure that if one particular table which is following the one norm, there is a rules are there. The first rule is we should defining the data items in effective way, and second one is redundant data should be removed. Third one is you have to maintain the, we have to ensure the primary key. And fourth one is we should all rows must be unique. And fifth rule is must contain only one single value, one single column, it contains only one single cell, it must be contain only one single value. Okay. E- each value should be non-divisible. Okay, not, it's not non-divisible in the sense it's not possible to split the table into another table. Okay, we cannot create the one table into another table. Actually, that kind of split is not possible, then it is following the one norm, right? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions, guys?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now we'll discuss about the two norm. So why I'm telling these things, you might understand. Actually, we have a constraint concepts are there that is following this particular. So that constraint concepts comes because of this particular normalizations. Okay. So second norm, two norm in the sense I already told you, right? If the table it has to be follow the two norm rule, that means first of all it has to be follow the one norm technique. Okay, it has to meet the all rules of one norm. Then only it will be go for the, okay. So two norm actually. So there must be no partial dependencies of one of the column on the primary key. So this is the next one. So that means all the keys it could be unique. Okay, so there must be no partial dependencies. This is the second keyword. No partial dependencies. No partial dependencies means what? Previously, when I'm creating the table, so here employee ID, okay, here the name is there, right? So, and and for example, here let me consider here Anjan is my primary key. Let me consider, I mean, this is the name is my primary key. Okay, name is my primary key. So if I consider the name is primary key, which so this particular situation which is depending on the employee ID or not. So this kind of things we won't avoid, we won't consider. Actually, no partial dependencies of any column on the primary key, of any of the column on the primary key. Okay, this is the one norm. So meanwhile we have a third norm. What is mean that third norm? Third norm in the sense, first of all it has to maintain the all the rules of the two norm. And one thing actually, tables should have the relationship. For example, you created the two tables. Okay, this is table 1 and this is table 2. These two tables it must have the proper rules. Basically we are following the three norm technique. So any database systems as of now we are following the three norm techniques actually. Okay, tables it should have the relation, so that we are calling it say relational database management system. Clear? Tables it should have the proper relation. So two norm in the sense no partial dependencies on the primary key, and three norm in the sense, and tables it should have the a proper relation. That's exactly the one three norm. So basically we are following the three norm rules. Three norm rules in the sense data should be defined in effective way. That means data column names and data types, and we should ensure into one particular table and create the primary key. Okay, and we should have at least one primary key. And second one is no partial depending on the primary key, no partial dependencies on primary key. And third one, fourth one is uniquely unique data, unique columns or unique records you should have it. Okay, and next one is what? table should have the relation, table relation, it should must have it. This is the exactly rules we are following in any database. Okay, if you want to achieve these things, we have a constraint concepts, and before that one we can understood the denormalization. Okay, then definitely we'll talk about constraints. First we'll talk about the denormalization. What is mean the denormalization? So denormalization in the sense whatever the rules we have it, that we can making into so denormalization is technique used on the previous normalization, right? So what we can use it, we can increase the performance. See, for example, you have the multiple tables actually. See, normalization in the sense we are dividing into the data into the different tables. That's exactly normalization. Okay, so for example, I want this is the table which is depending on this one, and which is depending on this one, right? So for example, this is serial number one, this is employee, this is employee salary, and here it is a department, and department id, department name, and like a client project is a project table, this is project table, this is department table, and this is employee table. So for example, this is my database of your company, so it might have the multiple tables, right? How we are dividing, because of you have to make it the data in effect efficiently. That's the reason we are using the normalization. Now what we are doing actually, so denormalization in the sense this all tables we are making as the one single table. Okay, okay, so this time you want access this employee name, employee salary, and employee name, and which department he is working, and which project he working on it. So this data I want access. This time you have to met this particular table, you should met this particular table, and you should met this particular table, right? When the normalization technique, this time data you organize in an efficient way only, but when you're accessing the data, so that time it has to be met a lot of tables, actually lot of tables which it has to be met. This time little time taking process. So, and if you want to increase the performance, then we can denormalize. When you denormalize it, then this all table which comes under to the one single table, so we are made only one table, right? So you can easily access the that particular record actually. Okay, this is exactly denormalization.
માથું ચડ્યું છે મારું જવાય.
Sorry, is it clear or not? Denormalization means what? So denormalization is nothing but combining the multiple tables into one, so that it can be query quickly. So you can write the SQL query and we can easily access the data in a bit speeder. That exactly the denormalization. Any questions, guys? Any questions? Hmm? Any questions?
No.
Okay. So then how we can able to do the normalization and denormalization? For that one, we have the concept is SQL constraints. What it is? Constraints. So this is the constraints is giving the set of rules for you, so that we can met the 3 norm, 1 norm, or 2 norm, whatever it is, whatever you want it. Okay, constraints are the rules enforced on a data columns on table. Okay, so constraints is nothing but it's a rules is which is enforced on the data on data columns on table actually. Okay, and what we can do, what is the use, there are used to limit the type of data that we can go into the table. For example, I want to create one particular name, so if I using the data type is integer, then how we can store the data into the okay string? It's not possible, right? So you can able to use it to limit the type of data that you can go into the table actually. Okay, and this ensure that accuracy and reliability of the data in the database. Okay, you can easily ensure the accuracy as well as reliability. Okay, so basically there are different kind of commonly used constraints are available in SQL. The first one is okay, not null. So for example, when you want to be hold the data, and the data it could not be the null. So for example, you have a table, so you don't know what could be the salary of one particular employee. That time what we can do, we just simply left with the okay, just simply with left, right? So that time automatically the database which is filling the null data. Okay, So which is filling the null data. So this kind of null data which is not accepting, okay, ensuring that the column can't have the null values. So that particular column, it won't store the null data. Okay, when you are mentioning the null constraint, not null constraints. Some situation you might have some kind of default data. So if you forgot to write insert the data, so that situation you should insert some default value. For that one, we can use the default construct. Okay, not null construct, default construct, and I want to be hold the records uniquely, then unique constraints we can use it. Okay, and whether while you're storing the data, whether it is met this particular rules or not, for that one we can use the check constraint. Check is another constraint. For example, you want to maintain the indexing column, and this indexing will help you to retrieve the data in effective way. For that one we can use the index constraint. And sixth and is a primary key, and the seventh one is foreign key. Okay, so foreign key and primary key. So basically these are the constraints we have it. So what we can do tomorrow, we'll go for understanding the one by one constraint by the another constraint, so with small examples, so that you can easily understood. Clear? So not null, default, unique, check, index, primary key and foreign key, these are the constraints, and each and every constraint which is especially designed for us to maintain the normalization data. Okay, for that one we can use these particular constraints. And so this is what, guys, and tomorrow what we can do, we'll do small examples on this particular constraints. Okay, one by one, actually one by one we can discuss. Any questions? Any more questions? Do you have any kind of questions, guys?
No.
Okay, that's for today's class, guys, and we'll catch up tomorrow, and so to discuss about constraints concepts, I mean constraints examples. Bye, see you, take care.
Bye.
Sir,
Yep,
sir, in which software we have to practice, sir, SQL?
you can use SQL 3. Okay, if you're using the
Yes.
SQL server, you can download the SQL server, and meanwhile we can download the DBMS. Okay, and MS SQL server, SQL server management system, SSMS management, DBMS we can use it. Okay, like, I mean SQL server. First we should install the server in your computer, then we have to install the software, then only we can connect. Okay, if that is a problem for you, then we can go ahead with the SQL 3. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.